Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the new look secondary for the Arizona State Sun Devils football team, what we're anticipating it's going to look like, and how it's going to perform in 2022 before we even get close to the start of the season. We got to talk some more Rachaad White, this time looking from an outsider's perspective of what everybody in the media world and in the draft world thinks about our guy. And then we're going to go ahead and close it out with some news about the Arizona State Sun Devils basketball team and its schedule against UCLA. You're listening to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome inside the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Rachaad, joined always by my amazing co-guide, Connor Drios. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. The best part about this podcast is we're free and available on all platforms, which includes, but is not limited to, Spotify, Odyssey, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts on an audio platform, we're there. We're also available on YouTube in a video platform. So if you want to see me and Connor's beautiful faces talking to you about everything Arizona State Sun Devils football, basketball, and otherwise, you can check us out there. Make sure you subscribe. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter as well. Myself at RichieBrads36, Connor at CDrios, and follow the Locked On Sun Devils page as well at LO_Sun Devils. This episode of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's go ahead, jump right into this conversation about the Arizona State Sun Devils football secondary. Connor, we touched on this a little bit on the Monday edition of the podcast with the new addition of Corey Bethley, who is a transfer from Hawaii, who has been ultra productive for the Rainbow Warriors, which, first of all, just amazing football name. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. But Corey Bethley.
It's a name. It is a name.
You know what? I'm not here for your negativity right now, okay?
It's original. It's better than the Wildcats, which there's like 19 of those.
Exactly. Dude, imagine being like the worst Wildcats team knowing how many Wildcats teams there are.
Let's see. There's Kentucky. Then there is the team in
K-State.
High School Musical. Oh, yeah. Them too.
No, you got a slew. I don't know off the top of my head, but this isn't Locked On Wildcats. This is Locked On Sun Devils, which is way better. Michael, we love you. But anyways, Connor, this new look secondary is suddenly very exciting because I remember when the season came to a conclusion, me and you were both having this conversation of like, I am really nervous about the state of the secondary because you lost.
I'm still kind of right there.
I'm
still right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so as we were saying earlier this week, like there's this level of just unknown, right? We don't know what they're going to be. They could be good. They could also be bad.
True.
Like it's not that I think we should say
it really is like either good or bad. I'm just saying, like it just you're giving me two choices here. I don't know if there's any other choices.
There's no like in between. They could be okay, right? There's no like they're either going to be really good or like absolutely terrible.
I sure. I don't know.
Well, when you lose guys like Chase Lucas, right? Jack Jones, guys who have played for you for several years. Chase Lucas being your all-time secondary starts leader, or was that just defense in general?
All-time in general. Nope. All time.
Yeah. So you lose a guy like that who's just meant so much to this defense. A guy like Jack Jones obviously gave you a ton in that secondary. Also losing guys like Pierce and Fields as well at the safety position. So losing also transfers guys like Tommy Hill. That hurts. It really, really hurts. And it's not that they can't play well. It's just how are they going to essentially reestablish all of that? Even if they don't necessarily have all that talent from day one, because we don't know what they're going to be. From the safety position, we seem to be okay, right? We have several essentially players transferring over within the last few weeks. Corey Bethley, as you had just alluded to, as well as Chris Edmonds. Those guys can come in and step right into this defense, potentially play pretty well for them. Cornerback is where I'm very concerned. We do have Jordan
Yes.
Clark, who you and I are both a big fan of. Can he be as good as a guy like Jack Jones? Maybe. Again, we can't definitively say yes or no to that until we actually watch him play. But if you have a guy versus multiple guys, like before, Jordan Clark was your 3 at best, right? That's a good position to be in. Now he has to be your 1. You do have some other guys on the roster, but with so many unknowns, that as far as the confidence level for me personally right now, I'm not down in the dumps about it. I just don't think I would be bragging about it until I can see what they can do on the field. That's all.
No, and there's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, all of this is potential and it's projection. So we can sit here and look and be impressed with the moves that they've done, because Chris Edmonds should be a really good pull that we got. I'm telling you, like, this Corey Bethley move, this is what really moved the needle for me, Connor.
He had his best year last year by far, jumped off the page a ton. So,
but he's gotten progressively better every year too. So, like I said, and at the end of the day, is he going to come in and do what he did at Hawaii? Probably not. It's not fair to expect him, because honestly, Connor, he does that at a Power 5 program. You're talking about him as one of the finalists for I think it's the Woodson Award for the nation's best secondary.
Who's Woodson?
Player. Dude, that's the thing. I don't know if it's Charles or if it's Rod Woodson. I got to look that up. Best defensive back college.
So while you're looking that up, just before you confirm that, you're totally
Jim
right.
Thorpe. I'm so stupid. It's a Thorpe Award.
Either way, if he's putting up those kinds of numbers, he's going to get that kind of recognition, which playing at a much different level of competition, it's going to be more difficult to do that. But having a guy who at least can perform at the college level gives me a little bit of hope, for sure.
100%. So it's just one of those things, again, like I had just previously mentioned, it's projection, right? So we're hoping that Corey Bethley can take what he was doing at Hawaii and translate it into the same success with the Sun Devils. But again, if he does what he was doing in Hawaii, we're talking about a Jim Thorpe finalist. We're talking about a potential first-round pick. Like, that would be an unreal tick forward in production and play level for him. That's not fair to ask.
I was going to say, expectations should be lower just because it's not – the numbers aren't necessarily transferable. Now, what I will say, and you and I talk about this all the time, whether it's on the podcast or off mic, secondary's best friend, Richie, is the
pass rush.
The refs? Yes, it is the pass rush.
Like, what?
Getting to the quarterback and forcing them to make poor throws can definitely help overcome maybe a not so great secondary. Not that I'm saying they're going to be bad, but if they can work a little bit hand in hand, that might be a big benefit to them. And we do expect the defensive line for this unit going forward, and also having some linebackers like an Eric Gentry or a Connor Soley might be a big boost to them. So it's not like they're going to have to be the piece of the defensive unit, but it helps when you have a defensive line like Arizona State's potential is.
I will come through the screen and fight you right now. Don't you?
I talk about the Arizona Cardinals too much, man. Arizona's an umbrella. It's an umbrella term. I'm sorry.
Look, you saved the Locked On Sun Devils for our guy Alex Clancy. All right, don't you bring him on here.
I'll give myself lashes later on for saying Arizona on this podcast.
There you go. Yeah, if you don't do it, I will. I will tell you, Connor, a couple guys that we should be talking about as potential playmakers, or not so much playmakers. We hope they're playmakers, but potential guys to watch going into the year would be the Markham twins between Keon and Kawan. Very close. So Kawan, Kejuan, Kawan. And you have Keon, which is Keon. So Kawan and Keon.
Are you teaching me how to spell?
No, so when our listeners are listening, so here's the funny thing, just real quick, side thing. I have a couple of kids at my school. They're twins, and their names are different by one letter. One.
Are they boy and girl?
No, two girls.
Okay, well.
So,
makes it a little bit harder.
And then I also have two kids who are they have the same first name, but they have different middle names. So it's a very common thing, like more common than I realize. So me doing this is more to kind of be like, I'm saying two different names. Like, I'm not saying Keon and Keon. I'm not saying Kawan and Kawan. I'm saying Keon and Kawan.
Both of them are going to have a shot at that second cornerback spot.
Yes.
Expecting Jordan Clark steps up to be your CB1. But there's going to be a lot of bodies there in competition, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But that is probably where I'm more concerned about any other part in the secondary. Is you're not even so much just needing two corners, right? Oftentimes you need a slot guy. And if we don't have anybody behind Jordan Clark, we'll see how that works.
Yes. And for the little bit of experience that they have, Kawan comes into the year with the more experience between the two brothers there. Kawan had 20 some odd tackles. He also had an interception. Keon was able to get 9 tackles of his own, and he also notched an interception. So these guys have shown some potential ball skills in the secondary, which is going to be much needed with the loss of Jack Jones and Chase Lucas, who, even though he didn't record an interception this year, definitely was able to play the ball when it was up in the air near him. So that's what you're hoping for. On paper, I think that these are the five guys that we're going to be looking at. So I don't know if I hate this, Connor. If you have Bethley, Chris Edmonds at safety, you have the Markham twins, and then Jordan Clark in the slot. I don't hate that. I like the potential. My question is, if it doesn't work out, what is your depth?
Where's your depth?
Exactly.
Yep, exactly.
That'll
exactly.
Be the big,
hey,
exactly.
We should host a podcast together.
Dude, we should. It's like we share half a brain or something.
That equals one brain between two people. Wonderful.
Wait. If we share half a brain,
that means you have a half and I have a half, and half make one, and we each need a brain.
Wouldn't it be we each share a quarter and then we make up a half?
No, that is your half a brain talking right there. Why don't we go ahead and take it to the next part of the podcast here before you give me and the listeners a headache?
You get out of here. Yeah, we'll go ahead. We're going to finish up this talk. When we return, we're going to go ahead and talk about Rachaad White and the media's attention that he is starting to get. But first, we need to talk to you about our friends over at BetOnline.
That's right. And BetOnline has you guys covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the playoffs, right to the big game in just a week from now. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And again, thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every single day. It is Super Week, brought to you by Get Upside, and there's no better place to get coverage of the big game than on the Locked On NFL podcast. Locked On Bengals and Locked On Rams are in L.A. all week covering the big game. So, Connor, let's go ahead and talk about Rachaad White. We all know how good he is. We had him on the podcast too. So we can officially claim ourselves to be the biggest fans of Rachaad in the whole wide world because he is one of the mascots for the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, and we got him on the podcast and flat out told him, like, hey, man, we are huge fans. So I feel like it's more than fair to say that Richie Bradshaw and Connor Drios are the number one fans of Rachaad White. Is that fair?
What? No.
Outside
what about
of his family?
I was literally about to say, what about his family? What about
his family and his teammates?
What about his really close friends that aren't his teammates?
Debatable.
Okay.
Right.
That's at least fair.
That's where the conversation gets started.
As far as hosts of Locked On Sun Devils, you and I are the biggest fans of Rachaad White. That is undeniable. Now the question is, who's a bigger fan of Rachaad White?
You got a lot of guys, honestly. So you've got all sorts of different pundits have kind of put their opinions out there.
I meant you and me, but
I mean, it's definitely me. It's not even close.
Regardless, we've kind of been doing some research and looking up other articles. Essentially, post Senior Bowl, right? He had his practices, he had the game. Now, a lot of people are very aware of who Rachaad White is, and I really do think he's going to be that diamond in the rough kind of player, and just makes an impact on the NFL, whether that's in his first season or not. Yet to be seen. But Rachaad White had kind of, I don't want to say an up and down game, but it's not like he absolutely exploded, right? And it's a little hard to do in the Senior Bowl if you're not necessarily playing a ton. In the first half, he had 29 yards and 7 carries and he caught 1 pass for 7 yards. So nothing spectacular per se. But that being said, he did finish the game with 52 yards, which led all players. And then he also had his longest carry, which was 18 yards in the second half.
Did you see that carry, by the way?
I did not.
He hurled the guy.
Oh, did he? Well,
yes.
Dude, he's done that several times this year. Like, seriously, if you go look up just Rachaad White highlights, regardless of this season or last season at ASU, like, he has done that several times. That surprises me not even a little bit. So, but we're not even just talking about ASU sources, right, that are talking about Rachaad White. He has put himself on the map because of what he did this season. And now that he's been at the Senior Bowl, he's getting more and more exposure, which is only going to continue to increase leading up to the draft in April.
100%, man. And I mean, it's all stuff that we've known, right? It's now starting to be put on a big level because Arizona State isn't the biggest school in the country. It's not even the biggest school on the West Coast, Best Coast, and Pac-12 after dark, right? I mean, not a lot of people are staying up to watch him anyways. So people are really going to start coming around on Rachaad White because they're going to start taking a look at him in the Senior Bowl where the spotlight was on him. They're going to take a look at him in the combine in the next few weeks that's coming up. They're going to be able to take a look at him in his pro days, and they're going to pay attention to his pro day, Connor, because he's going to be firmly on the radar. You do have some individuals, like you had the Mel Kipers of the world who knew who Rachaad White was. You had a few different analysts over at the Draft Network. Kyle Krabs, I believe, is one of the guys who's a little bit higher on Rachaad White than he is others. So, and then we were able to pull up a few other places as well that had their own opinions. I have in front of me here from SportsIllustrated.com's David Harrison highlighted 10 players that stood out to him at the Senior Bowl. Rachaad White clocked in at 4, and he had this to say about him, quote, "From day one on, the Sun Devils running back showed explosiveness, balance, and the ability to produce behind a patchwork offensive line in an event not truly catered to showcasing talent from the position." So obviously, and I mean, I was there, humble brag, to be able to see Rachaad White in person. And I can tell you that outside of a few plays where you're kind of like, that wasn't that great, he truly looked like that one cut back with really good vision. And he stood out in receiving drills, man. Like, I just got to put some emphasis and some mustard on that. Like, he clearly was steps and steps ahead of the rest of the group there when it came to...
Is that yellow or Dijon mustard?
It matters. Yes, Dijon is disgusting.
Okay, as long as we're agreed on that. So now everyone has bad reps, right? When you have a certain amount of volume of plays, everyone's got bad reps. So that's fine. And kind of like Harrison was highlighting in his article, he mentioned a patchwork offensive line. The whole thing's kind of patchwork. Like, you really don't have that much practice. You don't have a lot of chemistry and time with your teammates. So the fact that he was able to stand out on national television is still a great thing to be able to talk about. Now, I think we might have said this either the first or second day of practice. But you had mentioned a tweet from Jim Nagy, which was highlighting the top 5 speeds of any players, of any ball carriers during practice. Rachaad White came in at number 3 during that week of practice at 21.15 miles per hour. The top player was a cornerback by the name of Josh Williams, who ran at 21.75 miles per hour. No other running back was on this list at all. Now, he might have been the fastest ball carrier as far as running backs go. I don't think you and I are saying we expect him to be the fastest 40 among all the running backs, right, come the combine or by his pro day, whatever that might be. But that being said, the fact that he has that kind of acceleration, that's huge for him. Highlights a lot of things we've been saying, right? Can take it in between tackles, can bounce it out outside. That kind of his long strides are going to be able to make up a lot of ground, even if he's not the most just fast switch kind of player where he has that 4.3 kind of 40, but dude is going to be able to make up a lot with his athleticism and his essentially his frame. So we're now seeing a lot of these things culminate together where it's not just our opinion. We're not just spouting off nonsense about Rachaad White after another great game he had for us here. We're seeing this all kind of add up to what his future is going to be in the NFL. And it's super exciting.
It's very, very exciting. So I'm just honestly really, really happy to see everything start to come to fruition for Rachaad, at least in terms of like media attention. So again, none of this is new to us. We all know how good Rachaad is, and I mean that's that. So
Rachaad White had another 135 yards last night. Oh, shocker!
Just go ahead and wake me up when he's bad. How about that? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up this conversation. Go into our final break. When we return, we're going to be talking about Arizona State Sun Devils basketball update with their game up against the UCLA Bruins. But first, I got to talk to you guys about our friends over at Rock Auto. This episode of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and they have everything you need from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Connor, let's go ahead and talk about ASU Sun Devil basketball. So this game was delayed a while ago, but it officially is back on for what they say, the 21st of February.
February 21st. I want to say this was the game because they were trying to play their normally they'll set up the schedule where we play those California teams kind of all in a row, right? And same thing for when they come here. I want to say this was like more like around Christmas time, maybe even just before Christmas time.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Was essentially pushed off due to COVID reasons, I believe, in the UCLA Bruins locker room. Now, ASU, I know, has had issues of their own. So that being said, they now get this game on the 21st at UCLA. So, Richie, we talked about some of the magic that happened this weekend where ASU knocked off the number 3 team in the nation, and we weren't even in consideration for the top 25. That's just a ton of common sense right there, right?
Right.
Game going now to UCLA. Should we feel confident because maybe we match up well against them? Now, I understand how talented this UCLA team is, right? One great win should not define what ASU is going to do going forward. It's a great win in the Bobby Hurley era that we're going to be able to talk about. But is maybe UCLA a team we match up well against, or is that maybe just because they were at home, they got some of that energy? Should we feel good about this game going into February 21st at UCLA?
Connor, we just got to be realistic here. Like this win was an anomaly. This is not a sign of things to come. If it is, then I will eat my words and I will post it wherever you want to post it. But
sure,
this is not a sign of things to come. This is a great team win, one that we're going to be talking about for a long time in Tempe, and deservedly so. However, this is not going to be the norm for the remainder of the year. So I would tell you, especially going to LA, I don't like our chances. And quite frankly, the Bruins should be a very pissed off team because you went to triple overtime with a team that was like 6-13 going into that game, like disgustingly well under 500. A game that you should have easily.
They lost 2 games this weekend too. They lost to us and Arizona.
Yep.
Well, USC was able to pull off a sweep here. So
So that's a huge loss for them, man. They can't afford to drop that second game. Quite frankly, I don't think they're going to. And we'll take a look, man, because as of recording this podcast, Arizona State is playing the U of A Wildcats right now. And last we checked, they are playing close. So who knows, man? Maybe ASU has just finally figured out how to play teams pretty close. But at the same time, maybe they're just who we thought they were, right? They are who we thought they were, and we let them get off the hook.
You almost got it. Close. It was close.
No, I butchered it on purpose.
Gotcha.
No, I know the actual quote. Come on, Danny Green, Arizona Cardinals.
Danny Green.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you're right. It's one game, right? For the Sun Devils, that's a great win. That being said, like it's not who they've been all season long. We would like to think they can change, right? But they haven't been this team. This was the one game where they really played well in both halves against a really quality opponent, number 3 team at the time in the nation. I tweeted out some thoughts post game, essentially like This team, in my opinion, if they don't have depth behind DJ Horn, and an example, like it took how many points from Ryan Jackson? Like 24 for them to be in this game, which went to triple overtime and they barely won, right? And it took a career game from somebody like him. If they don't have everything going for them, it's not that realistic. Going to UCLA, expectations should be low. Can we expect maybe that they play them competitively? Sure. But a win on the road, I just, as of right now, I don't expect it. Now, we have like 3 or 4 games in between leading up to February 21st now that we're kind of on a somewhat consistent schedule. So we will have some other times to kind of see, is that one game against UCLA, was that kind of like us as a pretender? Right. And we're going to see that, whether it's U of A or maybe the other 3 or so games we have leading up to it. So maybe that gives them a little bit of confidence. Maybe they can get into win streak and get some of that momentum that you were talking about earlier this week, right? You're talking about how momentum is such a big deal because it is, right? A win against UCLA, maybe a tough loss they had against USC where they stole it last second. And maybe if they can make it a close game against U of A, hopefully that gives them some sort of confidence booster. Now, we're not talking about moral victories. Those aren't a thing, right? We're not looking for that.
Especially not on this podcast.
But if they can start to go on a little bit of a run, 2-3 game win streak against some of their other Pac-12 opponents, maybe that might be what they need to be able to play UCLA tough once again.
That's all you can hope for, man. At this point in the year for the Arizona State Sun Devils, you want these guys to just play tough basketball, okay? That's all we can ask for the team at this point. We're not asking you to win out. We're not asking you to make the bracket. Just make it interesting. Do your best. Go out there and have fun, sweetie. We'll get you.
But fun only happens when you're winning. So
this is very, very true. So that'll go ahead and wrap up what we got to talk about today. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Remember that we're free and available on all platforms, which includes but is not limited to Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts on audio platform. Me and Connor are there Monday through Friday. It's the best Arizona State Sun Devils content in the whole wide world, football, basketball, and otherwise. We're also on YouTube as well. So if you want to see a video format of me and Connor sitting here talking into the camera while I scratch my face and Connor just kind of sits there all stoically staring into the abyss that is his computer camera, you guys can check us out there as well. Subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star rating, all that good stuff. Make sure you follow us on Twitter as well. You can follow me at RichieBrads36. You can follow Connor at CDrios, and you can follow the Locked On Sun Devils page as well at LO_Sun Devils. So again, thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every single day. Go ahead and make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.